Greetings, human. Today we'll be looking at how plants actually respire, using a process called photosynthesis. Now, although this process sounds very complicated, it is actually not that complicated, so let's dive right into it. There are many parts of the plant which have weird names, so you may need a notebook, unless you've got a mind palace or something. I mean, who came up with the name for this? The xylem? The main parts of the plant that most people are aware of are the stalk and the leaf. We will be focusing on the process inside the leaf, because that's where most of the juicy stuff happens. The leaf is the factory of glucose, the sugar daddy, the carbohydrate caretaker, the glucose guardian, the fructose father. Who came up with this? Anyway, the plant creates this beautiful substance by means of photosynthesis. This is the process of turning sunlight into sugar. And chlorophyll is what makes it happen. Chlorophyll is a green pigment found in most plant cells in the leaves of the plant, which is why the leaves are the factory of the plant. They have the higher concentration of chlorophyll, therefore they make more glucose. Chlorophyll is one of the two catalysts which help this process happen. The other one is sunlight. Now, for those of you that don't understand what a catalyst is, I'm going to give you a superfluous example. Involving donuts! Imagine a baker baking donuts. They have the dough and they change it into its shape, texture and lovingly tasty shape that is a donut. In this instance, the baker is the catalyst, changing the substance but not yet being changed themselves. Now, if you look a little deeper, you will find that sunlight is actually the other catalyst in this equation. You see, when the sunlight is captured inside the plant, the leaf cleverly changes the sun's light energy into chemical energy, so the following process can occur. What on earth is this? Now, this may look complicated, but all it means is that chlorophyll and sunlight change 6 carbon dioxide molecules and 6 water molecules into sugar and 6 oxygen molecules. Haha! Simple. Now what I'm going to do is just list off the different parts of the plant, because most of them don't need that much explaining. The more general terms are the lamina and petiole. The lamina is a large flat part of the leaf, and the petiole is the little stalk that connects the leaf to the stem of the plant. Now if we look at the more individual parts of the plant, we have the upper and lower epidermis. The upper epidermis secretes a waxy substance called the cuticle, which stops water evaporating so it can be assimilated into this equation. Oh no, it's back again! The lower epidermis contains small open gaps called stomata, protected by guard cells. These guard cells can open or close the stomata at will. What an inventive name. Following this, we have the middle part of the leaf, which is divided into the upper palisade layer and the spongy mesophyll layer. Now, these all contain chlorophyll inside chloroplasts inside the cells. The palisade layer is a row of vertical columns of palisade cells that are absorbing the sunlight that comes through the upper epidermis. And while the spongy mesophyll layer is also doing this, their formation is a lot less attention-like. The cells are more spaced out, in irregular shapes with air gaps flowing between them. Now, back to this. You might be wondering how the CO2 and the water actually get to the mesophyll for the reaction to take place. You see, CO2 is emitted from people or other things, and eventually makes its way towards a plant. The plant then cunningly opens its stomata and the CO2 flows through into the air gaps, where the mesophyll cells then absorb it to be used in the reaction. But where does the water come from? The ground! The earth is flat, don't give in to the lies. Water and other things are absorbed by the roots, and this method takes place, therefore putting them in the xylem, one of the two parts of the vascular bundles. Now, the walls of the xylem are made up of cellulose and lignin. How on earth do you pronounce this? Lignin. Cellulose and lignin are tough, which is good, because the xylem is transporting water, and we don't want it to burst. The water moves through the xylem by the transpiration stream. Transpiration is the evaporation of water from the mesophyll cells. This causes a pull on water to come up in the xylem and replace the evaporated water. water travels from higher concentrations to lower concentrations, trying to reach an equal concentration everywhere. Now that we have our reactants, the process of photosynthesis can finally take place, and once it has, we end up with these. Oxygen is useless for the plant, so it is just kicked out of the stomata, which is good for us because, humans need oxygen. But the glucose is transported to wherever through the phloem, and together with the xylem, this is what form vascular bundles, which take materials wherever they need to go, throughout the plant. Glucose is too reactive to be transported through the plant, so it is turned into sucrose, a much more stable and less soluble sugar. When glucose is stored, it is stored as starch, a very, very, very complex sugar molecule, also known as a carbohydrate. A good example of starch storage is a potato. This is a massive pile of carbohydrates which the plant has stored and is going to use later. Unless, I fancy a jacket potato. Glucose has many uses, including these, so you can see why it is so important for the plant. And that's all I've got. Hope you enjoyed.